Calvin T. Mann, leading EMIY, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIY TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Let's go. Back in the building. Glad to be present in the building. Getting ready today. Welcome to EMIY TV, where everything we talk about is either a solution or something good. We don't do negativity. We don't do thoughtism, inwardisms. We here strictly to share encouragement and love and the unification of family, friends in a new world. EMIY TV is not about to be showing a bunch of negativity. So I'm glad to be here. I am your host, Calvin T. Mann. In the building is the Queen, Heather Miller. Heather Miller, man, magnificent macaroni and cheese, lettuce and tomatoes. And we got my brother in the building, Dr. Dave Patterson in the building. Right. Always on time. I'm talking about brother walk through the door on time. Right.
That's to do my heartbeat.
Right. And the engineer, y'all all know, hot, super hot. My man, L Boogie.
What's up, everybody? What's up?
So today we kicking off Fatherhood Unity Month. June 1st is officially Fatherhood Unity Month forever. You might as well get used to it because I ain't going nowhere. I really want to have a conversation of how we planned a woman's expo during fatherhood on Father's Day weekend. I'm not going to really get into it, right? But I just love the disrespect, continue to disrespect. And I guarantee you will remain in the position that you're in. So that's the way I see it. That's the way I'm going to leave it. But there are a lot of men who deserve that day and that time. And I'm praying and hoping that you acknowledge the fathers, because you might not recognize it, but they're way more valuable than MTV, BET, and any other channel you watching that foolishness on. So yes, I came in here on one. I'm feeling good. Dave, I'm feeling good. Heather, I'm letting y'all know I'm feeling good. My
you feel no pain.
No pain. My diet, my exercise and my diet is working.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna keep it right there. So I'm very, very happy and jovial. And again, excited, glad to be here. So today's topic is really about, fatherhood stories. We had a couple of people who were intending to call in. My brother Dewan, but he had got caught up with a situation. So you're going to catch a fatherhood story from yours truly. In the meantime, Heather and Dave will add in. Heather will share about her dad, and I'm sure Dave will share about his, but the fatherhood story. We start shooting the fatherhood film this evening, and we're excited about getting the fatherhood stories from men who have endured fatherhood to the success of their children and themselves. It's so important that we share this story at the expense of the truth. Has nothing to do with anybody else but the truth. And these men have not been able to tell their story and their truth. And I'm so excited to get that and to begin to build this project as we're moving forward. Other than that, hello, Heather.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. I'm also excited about our Fatherhood Unity Month. and all of the things that I get to see and experience in terms of celebrating our men and our fathers, our grandfathers, our uncles, our godfathers, our father figures, our fathers on in our lives, and all the spaces that they show up, and they do show up, and we need to make sure that we honor and recognize when they do. So I'm excited to have this conversation today and just share some of my stories. I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. So, Brother Dave, you in the building? Dave is in the building. Dave is in the building, and not on the screen.
Yeah,
we got the physical, not the 3D version.
I know. Even though I love to be multiplicity and be everywhere,
right.
That would be sweet. I'd be that matrix.
Right. I'm here. I'm there. I'm everywhere.
I'm everywhere. Sound unfair. I'm everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad this is, Father Month, because at the end of the day, it was a funny story that went on in church yesterday. So they asked the question, when is the next holiday? They said 4th of July. Just leap right over Father's Day. Now, if it had been Mother's Day, they'd have said Mother's Day. But they said, the next holiday is what? I said, no. Father's Day coming up, and that's super important. So it's really important that we celebrate Father's Day month, because at the end of the day, fatherhood is so important. It's so significant that we can see the impact if the fathers are not there. There's a lot of challenges in our community because of that lack. So we have to give credence to the fathers.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, no question about it. I'm literally multitasking as normal, right? Trying to get this thing up so we can show. Yes, there we go. Right. So we can share this conversation. So Dave, Heather, Book, right? So the main thing that really sticks out to me is a story, and I'll share this story. What happened was I was doing an interview a few years back, and I'll never forget this. Right, this is a big deal to me. The interview was a young man from Dad Swag. Shout out to my man from Florida. Came into town. He's originally from here, but he was in Michigan. We were meeting and having this fatherhood meeting space, and we were talking, and suddenly there was going to be an interview, right? Now, when we talk about things that you can't do, the boogeyman and, boule and all them other things, right? This falls right into the line with that, right? So now I'm going to be interviewed. So as we're having this conversation at the table, the interview is going down, right? The young lady that's interviewing us, her name was Kim Trent, and she was working for, what's that? Free Press. It was Free Press, right? It's an interview. It's with Free Press, right? And so we're having a conversation, and it was asked to me if it are all possible that we could have a conversation about fatherhood that doesn't diminish mothers, right? I said, okay. I said, can we have a conversation about mothers that doesn't diminish fathers? Right? So then I go on with my interview. My interview never makes the paper, but the guy from Florida, his interview is in the paper, right? So I say, okay. So that right there is what I refer to as privilege, right? When someone asks you not to say something about something that is factual and true, you have to be concerned about what you interact with, how you say, and what you do, right? So that left a bad taste in my mouth as someone who advocates for boy, men, husbands, and fathers. So then I'm having a conversation consistently over the years because, we started Good Fathers Only in 2008, although I was assembling men who are still the symbol till this day. If there needs to be something done, we can call. And I was assembling men just based on, hey, Boog, let me see if you're a good father. You're a good father, Boog, then I can learn from Boog, right? So Boog became my friend. Dave, you're a good father, so Let me see if you're a good father. Are you a good father? And Dave was like, yeah, I'm a good father. So I watched Dave. Oh, yeah, I can learn something from Dave, right? So my object was to surround myself around men who were fathering. So make a long story short, I started noticing there's a number of things. Paul Elam, who runs where we did the men's issue conference, who runs A Voice for Men, was on my page yesterday.
Okay.
And he said there's no way that we're going to be able to bring men together, fatherhood together, until, right, we get women out of the space of fathers. Right? Like, it's going to be very difficult for us to do so. But he said it in a different way. Right? So I tell Paul, hey, it's time we do that men's issue conference again in Detroit. I'm with you. Right? Because that is the key to everything, getting men to see. The problem that we see is over the years, as we are discussing fatherhood, we've brought in a number of people, including last year, Dr. David Pate, the whole nine, where we every day last year and the last 2 years on Fatherhood Unity Month, we were interviewing fathers, we were having the conversation the whole nine, right? I took a break, right? So we didn't do it this year. But we're going to continue Fatherhood Unity Month.
Right.
So today, that's what we're doing. We're going to share bits and pieces of fatherhood stories. Then next week, Heather, your theme. Heather is doing something with women about fathers. What is your theme for next week?
I forgot.
She forgot. So, which is hilarious, right? Because, yes, she forgets. For those of you who don't know,
You can retrieve it.
Right.
It'll retrieve up in a minute.
hey, Dave, for those of you who don't know, she can forget, right?
Well, I mean, I can flip through my book here and pull it up.
Yeah. Well, you need to pull it out,
Let's
right?
see.
So then she'll do one on fathers for next Monday, and then she'll do the last Monday, and then I'll do a third one where we'll be talking on the 20th, the day after Father's Day. We'll be talking about men, HIV, domestic violence, with sisters from out of Maryland, right? Where I received an award from them last year in the fall for their anniversary. They were looking, they found, and I was nominated by some people and received an award from them. Right.
Yeah, so
You got it?
Yeah.
All right, come on with me.
It's the Goddess window of Father's Day.
Okay. So that's next week.
The Goddess window.
The
Father's
God.
Day.
Okay, what is the Goddess window?
I mean, it's looking at fatherhood through a different window, through a different lens.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. And then, do you have the title of your last one at the end of the month?
Let me see. No.
Okay.
No.
All right. That's what's up. So, getting into the story, Dave, Heather, ladies first. So, I'd like for you to share something about your fatherhood as you were sitting here talking about your daddy and WJZZ with the light at the end of the cigarette with the green beam going across, telling Bug how you remember.
Well, I mean, it was inspired by his shirt. He has on the old school new school shirt.
Right.
Right.
Okay, well, come on, old school. Bring it in for Pops.
So, my dad actually passed away May 5th of last year. So, although his body has made the transition, his spirit is still with me. And I cherish just even having conversations and reminiscing about the life that we shared together. So I don't count it as loss. I count it as joy to be able to even now be able to connect with him in spirit. So that's really one important piece for me to start this off, that he's had and has been such an impact in my life that even though he is not sharing this physical space with me, he is still sharing this spiritual space with me. And so I want to acknowledge that first. And then secondly, that I have lots of stories with my dad. So I tried to summarize them in these statements. So the first one is really what I remember. What I remember about my dad, and I know that parents have the opportunity to see their children from birth and as they go through their lifetime. But I also had a chance to see my dad from his youth and his My dad was maybe 27 when I was born. And that, just the thought of that my dad being 27 and then raising 7 kids and always, no matter what, making time for each one of us. My dad, it was one point in our family life where we didn't have a car, and my dad was taking the bus. And my dad worked out, what now is like Telegraph and 96. Well, that wasn't exactly there when I was younger, but he worked out there. And even when my baby sister was born, she was born premature, and my mom was home because, old school C-sections, we've come a long way. But anyway, she was incapacitated for a week, so she wasn't able to go and check on my baby sister. My dad would get on the bus during his lunchtime. He would finish up his work, take the bus down to Hutso Hospital. Now, again, he's at 96 and Telegraph. He would jump on the bus. Well, first, in the morning, he would go take the bus and go feed her. He would then go, get ready for work and then go to work. Lunchtime, he would jump on the bus again, go back down to Hutso Hospital, feed my sister, spend time with her, then take the bus back out to work and work out the rest of his shift and then come home. And, that's that level of commitment, that level of just dedication of, how many people, one who even will, see fit to take the bus. You already took it once to get to your destination. Now you got to take it again to get downtown, and then to get back at a certain time. He just went down there to feed her, literally to feed her, hold her, jump back on the bus and go back to work. He spent more time on the bus than he actually did with my sister. And so I was young and I saw that. I was 10, 11 years old when I saw him doing those kinds of things. But that was my dad. If it was a science fair, if he could only be there for a few minutes, he was going to let you know that he was there. One of the ways that he would let you know, he had a whistle. I don't know how he could do it, but you could hear my dad whistle for miles. Mm-hmm. And he just had a very distinctive whistle. And so you always knew he was present. He would say, "Oh, well, I can't do it." But it would be a short whistle just to let you know that he was near, no matter where you were. And, that's kind of inconspicuous for other people. But for us, it was Dad's here. Mm-hmm. No matter what was going on, it could have been a football game. I was really active and involved in high school and sports and activities and things like that. My dad would always do that whistle. You would know you may not have seen him, but you would always know he was there. You would hear. And so just being there. And it wasn't always about what he did when he was there, but just that he was there. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what I remember about my dad, is being there.
Awesome. A lot of times we, and your pops was really cool, right? So he and I had a great experience, and I shared this story when I took him out for Veterans Day. And the first thing he wanted to ask me, he said, "You brought me out here to ask my daughter's hand in marriage?" I said, "No, I brought you out here for yourself, brother. I brought you out here for if I'm gonna do that, I know how to do that, but that hadn't been asked for. You see what I'm saying?" So, he was like, man, this is great, right? And we had a ball. I mean, the waitresses, all the jokes and the.
Oh, boy.
Right, with the waitresses, how he is. Oh, boy. The flirting and the... Yeah, sister. Yeah, girl. Yeah, right. Yeah. He was good. But that's in essence what you said at the beginning is what's so powerful about fatherhood, was the fact that you said he was gone, but he was still present. He's present because of how he did it. Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing about being a good father. It's how you do it. And in this society, it's also about the cooperation that he allowed. I was reading the other day, Dave, a statistic came down about shared parenting, right? And the whole dynamic of if you the only one with custody or she the only one with custody, who was losing time, and right. I even sent the email to the person who read it. So Dr. Linda Nelson, I even sent the email to her. and was asking, because I'm really concerned about what's happening to our children cognitively before they come into this world. That's a big thing for me, right? And so I sent the email in response to her, but I was just letting her know, great article and information. So she sent me a ton of information. Of course, you know I had to eat it. So she sent a ton of information. So I'm going through this information and bingo, bam, boom, right there. Shared parenting. You know there's only 3 states that practice the shared parenting, right? But here's the thing they found out in a recent study. They discovered that in co-parenting, right? Cooperative co-parenting is better than one parent having possession to the child or the other parent having possession of the child. That cooperative co-parenting, shared parenting, the shared parenting model, 50% and 50%, people being concerned about if they're going to love you less if they spend 50% of the time with dad or they spend 50% of the time with mom. None of that's true. Shared parenting is still effective, which leads us back to the 2-parent household is still the most effective way to raise children, period. So the shared parenting information comes out, smacks the single fathers, smacks the single mothers, and the mindset around those two, and forces the conversation around them being able to communicate and raise the child together. Brother Dave, your story.
Absolutely. I guess it kind of lines up with what Heather said is about the father being there. I was fortunate to have 2 dads, one biological, one step, but my father always said the only steps were the ones outside. So that means I had 2 dads. My biological father, initially only seen him for 5 years, but because we moved from Louisiana. But he stayed in touch, and we always had our little conversation. He was a guy that liked to fish. I really don't dig fishing, but I'll hang out. You know, as an adult, I'll hang out, but I don't like fishing. I don't like touching fish. But I don't even like fish that much. But at any rate, so, you know, one thing that both of my dads had in common, they loved to dress, you know, and so they taught me style. You know, first they taught me style. They say you need to represent. You know, if you look good, you feel good.
Yep.
And so then they taught me how to shop. You know, don't be paying 300% markup on people's stuff, making them rich. You know, get the sale of the layaway back in the day. So that was one piece. Then they taught me about the ability to be accountable and responsible, which goes back to a certain level of style. That whatever you do, you hold yourself accountable first. You don't look and blame everybody else. If you do it, take the stand and say, I did it. And be responsible for whatever you're doing. So that was significant because both of my dads worked hard. They were hard-working men. I don't care if they party from Friday to Sunday, 24/7. Come Monday morning like clockwork, you can count on them going to work. There was just no ifs and buts about it. They took care of family, so I didn't know nothing about families not getting taken care of.
Right.
And even in my neighborhood, fathers went to work. They may have been drunk as a skunk, you know, but come Monday, you know, hey, they all suited up and ready to go, whether it's in their work suit, if it was, you know, the factory,
right,
or they sat at the desk. But either way, they went to work. And then about relationships, you know, my dad used to always say, both of them said actually, say what you mean to me, what you say. Stand up to your words, you know, and know what you're saying. Think about before you speak. So that was significant. But one story I really like is the fact that my dad, I'm going to use the second dad, he would always let me use his car. Well, you know, back in the day, old school, you know, you like to be having the diamond in the back, sunroof top, digging this thing with the gangster lean. Well, I'm learning how to drive, right? And, you know, my dad had this big deuce and a quarter, you know, a 225 Buick. And it was cold-blooded, gold with the green interior, you know, sweetness. So it was in front of my parents' house, and, you know, my boys seeing me, and they checking me out, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to be styling my dad's car. My dad was in the car, so I get in the car, and first thing I want to do, I want to lean. Now, I'm supposed to be ready to drive appropriately.
Right.
I want to lean. So when I put it in gear, whatever happened, I must have put it in reverse. I hit the car behind me, then I panicked, and then I hit the car in front of me. Then I got nervous trying to put it in. I hit the car across the street. I leaped out the car and ran in the house.
Wow.
And then my mother looked and said, boy, your daddy gonna get you. So he came in the house. He said, you all right? I was like, yeah, I'm okay. He said, well, hey, you got to learn. He didn't even bat an eye, you know. But that was the first time I tore his car up. So the same car, he gets it fixed, right? So now it's the winter time. So he said, Dave, you know, it's bad out there. Be careful. I'm going over to my former wife's house, you know. And I said, okay. Lo and behold, it's ice on the ground. What I do, tear the car up. Bang! All the front end tore up. But now I'm scared to tell him because I already tore it up once, right? So I come back. My dad must have back then didn't know about that, but my dad must have had OCD, right? Because when he would come out the house, he never went to the front. He always went out, went to the left, to the right, and then he went to the left, and he come on and get in the car. I'm calculating this. He leaves at 6 o'clock like clockwork. I'm up 5:55. So he does exactly that. Zoop, 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 get in the car. I said, okay, that's cool. So he goes to work. He gets out the car. He does the exact same move. He gets out, go to the back, go wherever he's going. So it must have did exactly that, right? I mean, my dad is like clockwork, right? I'm like, cool. Now, I don't know about OCD, right? But I'm flowing with this behavior. So that's why I knew I was scheduled to be a psychologist because I'm looking at patterns. But anyway, I'm looking at patterns. So here's the coolest part of the story, and I'm going to cease on that. So the coolest part of the story, told my girlfriend at the time, she was a girl, I said, ooh, I'm going to get in trouble when Daddy see that car. He going to kill me. He ain't going to kill me. He got to tell the cop. He going to kill me because I ain't tell him. So I'm shaking like Don Knotts every time, you know, and I'm over our house. And they didn't have no cell phone back in those days. So, you know, I kept calling her, hey, Ma, how's it going? Because she didn't work at the time. She said, oh, it's going pretty good. Me and your daddy going to Montgomery Wars, what they call Monkey Wars. So I said, okay, cool. So now she must have even bothered. She goes, you know, he opened the door, she get in. So she didn't see the front either. They go to Monkey Ward. Lo and behold, I call home. Now it's a little later. I'm really scared now because, you know, now you in the lot. Lo and behold, I said, Ma, how's it going? She said, boy, you know what happened? I said, no, what happened? Somebody hit your daddy car and the security guard saw it all. I go, yes. So I was straight. So I didn't tell him until I was 40 because I didn't want I said, Dad, I took your car another time. And we chuckled off. But all in all, nothing was more important than his children. And like you say, you know, truthfully, even the biblical days, a father would leave. You might not see the father for 2 or 3 months, but their presence was always there. And so when they returned, because you always heard the classic line, even if you saw the old Black Exploitation sitcom, wait till your daddy get home. So their presence meant something.
Yeah.
And so that, as both of my fathers are going on to glory now as young men, one was, well, I guess 175, another one I was just telling you about, he's 44. Both of them had a heart attack. But men who really worked hard and set the presence for me that I don't care what I do, I'm going to make sure I work. I'm going to work multiple jobs. You know, they call you Jamaican now. But that was just the norm back in the day. You know what I mean? You just worked a lot of jobs, whatever it takes. They taught me everything. Like, I don't work on cars today. I got me a Dukes of the Quarter, too, right? And I was working on the starter, and I kept having to come from there and go to the part shop. I said, Lord, the day I get enough money, I ain't never working on another car. I ain't never worked on another car. Somebody else who like doing that. But they taught us all that. You know, wasn't about you know how to change a tire, you know how to change a starter, you know how to change, do the tune-up and timing change and all. You do all. You can't do all that now because of electronics and stuff, but they taught us everything, so that's a foundation that they teach you. The legacy.
Yeah, the deuce and a quarter.
Yeah.
That deuce and a quarter is it, right? The electric 225. For those who don't know, right?
You heard of that book?
That deuce and a quarter.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Right. So great story. My Uncle Robert, my cousin Chuck, and my cousin Earl all had old school deuces and a quarter. Right. That's all they bought. Right. Was deuces and quarters, right? That was their car. My Uncle Robert literally turned this whole garage into an auto mechanic, right? And so he'd pull in. He always had, and it was always a drop top, a drop top deuce and a quarter, right. And for those of you who don't know, that boy it glides. So that was the deuce and a quarter is really a throwback term for those millennials and the people who didn't have that conversation. Most of them was parked in the driveway of a home.
That's right.
So see, fathers drove Buicks.
That's right.
You didn't see the players in Buicks. You saw fathers. I saw fathers in Buicks. So just to coordinate that together. My great fatherhood story is surrounded by a number of men. in my life. My dad, being a gospel pioneer on the go, where I get some of this stuff, like we looking at that RV, I remember having the charter buses and being able to go to Cedar Point every year, right? We was going to Cedar Point because we was taking everybody in the community. We had 2 charter buses, load them up, and we were out. So that was my parents, that was what they were doing as a husband and a first lady, right? And as a pastor and a first lady. And my dad was on the go with the music, being the first gospel artist signed by Motown. That's what they say. Some people dispute it. Anyway it goes, Motown first song is done by Matty Moss Clark. My dad produced They Shall Be Mine with Matty Moss Clark. So I get my parents split, right? And then here's and I think I told this story before, but this is the classic one. In our neighborhood, at this time, back in the day, was pear trees. There was always pear trees,
Apple trees,
the mulberry trees, right? And you could go pick mulberries, get bags and bags of mulberries, and all of that, right? And literally, we decided, it was this lady on Santa Rosa. Forget this lady's name, but she had a beautiful home, right? And she happened to have a big gap in her yard, so she had an additional yard space with this big, beautiful pear tree, right? That you could literally climb up in, and she took good care of the tree. So one day, me and my brothers decide we all gonna hit it at the same time. Right? And so back in the day when we was coming up, Boog, they probably would have called us baby kids because it's a bunch of us, right? So we everywhere. We up and down the block. If you don't get the man kids, right, they either in a fight or they doing something they ain't got no business doing. The man kids everywhere. They do everything. So you got to watch them. In front of our house, we got the big wheels where we go to Sherwood Forest, snatch the big wheels. Yes, stolen, right? Snatch the big wheels, pop the wheels off, make the go-kart. Right now we got go-kart races in the middle block. We also had the swing bikes.
Right.
So we get the swing bikes, juice them up, put the sissy pole on them.
Right.
Remember the big old sissy pole? Then we started doing the Evil Knievel. Right? We gonna hit the ramp. Right? One of my friends, Mark, he hit the ramp and sat down while he was coming down, and when he came down, it scarred up his whole arm, right? So this particular day, we cut through the alley. Our alleys were clean, regardless to what people talk about.
Right.
Our alleys were clean. We did a lot in our alleys.
Yes.
Those 2 charter buses was literally parked behind our garage, both of them, right? And still alley had space, right? And so we creep up in this tree, me and my brothers. Right, we up in there, we got bags, we picking pears. The lady comes out. Did not tell y'all not to be in my tree no more. And she got a gun. And she calls the police. Hold us in the tree till the police get there.
Hold you in the tree.
Right. So the police come, put us in the car, and takes us 2 blocks over. Now, imagine everybody on the block is out playing, and here come the mans in a police car. Now, everybody already, like them mans is everywhere, right? But here come the police pulling us up to the house, and we getting out the car. My mother, all of us had what Boog got right now. We had the froze, right? So we were supposed to be prepping, for the next Jackson 5, because we all call ourselves, we gonna sing. Everybody gonna sing, but it's besides Corn, my baby brother, Carl, those 2 weren't there. So it's me, Columbus, and Curtis. So that's 3. So we get out the car, right? Didn't you can hear my mama like, boy, you know what? I know what to do. I'm going to call y'all daddy. Everybody like, don't call him.
You want some of this?
No, don't call him, right? So she calls him. Literally, on our house, it's a downstairs landing basement, right? So it's like an L, right? So it's a chute, the old milk chute, be on the back of the house.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right? So the milk chute, and then it's a plug. So my dad plugs in the clippers. pulls the clippers through the milk chute, and cut all our hair off. Now, mind you, he wanted to do that because my mom had put you remember they used to put them the perm curls in, but she had us all curly and permed up. He ain't like that. That's it. What you gonna do? So as soon as he came, he ain't get no belts, we ain't get no whoopings. He sat in the backyard, cut all our hair off. And we sat there, everybody sitting there crying about their hair, and I was like, man, we ain't getting no whoopings. Here I am, the logic. Babe, we didn't get no whooping. Right, he just cut off all our hair. We can grow that back. But we never went up in that lady's tree again, needless to say, after getting our hair cut off. And there are so many things. Before my dad passed away, we were really starting to get close. I was going through literally a divorce. And he got on the phone to, in his own emotion. And, he was like, that's why me and your mama divorced, because of what I was saying my reason was. And I was like, no, that don't sound right. And I was like, man, ain't no way, right? So we kind of fell out on the phone at that point. And, where I was like, man, you tripping. Right, and we was just starting to get close, and he fell down the steps from an aneurysm, and it popped. He was 56 years old, and when you talk about presence, as Heather talked about and you talked about after they're gone, this is another reason why fatherhood is so important. Because the attention that you have to pay to in detail as dads, I was telling my son today, like, you got to understand, man, you got to be able to do more than what you're doing. Like, you a dad, we got a lot to do. And that's not to say that your wife don't have a lot to do, but we got a lot to do, right? And there are things that we got to focus on that she just can't focus on. And there are things that she got to focus on that you just can't focus on. That's the beauty of having someone in poetry, as I say, poetry in motion, right? Being able to work with someone, have a partnership and understand your role, and not looking at each other as something that I'm better than or bigger than, and I'm more valuable than you're valuable. That no, together we are godly valuable. I think that's why God created marriage, is for us to be valuable and listening to each other and vibing off each other. Today, my son, this is what he's concerned about. He's like, he just don't want to see nobody go through a divorce. So his thing is, he trying to help men not go through a divorce. Here's how you got to have respect for him. He's going through his thing, talking about how men, can say their relationships, because they need to understand that it's not just all about them, right? And you got to be able to get some respect. In order to get some respect, you got to be able to give her. So he goes through that whole dynamic. But for today's society, I saw a video today where a young man who has a business, he had built his business before he got with his girl, and he said to his girl, he was like, "Babe, you gonna sign a prenup?" And she said, "I'm not why?" And she going through all this emotion. He said, "Because I built this business before we got together. This is just business." Right? Which is stating the fact that this marriage is a business. And you have to work at it. And I'll come into the door with a lot of value. It'd be nothing for you tomorrow to get up. And this is what men are talking about across the country, that the rules of engagement has not changed. And so you could get up tomorrow and say, "Hey, I want a divorce." And you can walk into any court and say he cheated. And then they going to believe it. And he ain't did nothing. That's what Paul was talking about, what I started this conversation out about. If men got to come together, the problem is men only want to satisfy their own problems at the time that they're in that problem. Then they don't want to help or do and help nobody else. Right? And that's where we have to get out of that dynamic as men. But back to this Fatherhood Unity Month. The segue through the Goddess eyes that Heather is going to do, it'll be around women, am I right? Mm-hmm. Sharing their fatherhood stories and perspectives on what fatherhood is to them, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us more.
Well, the lens, as you grow as a woman, and you live and you experience different types of relationships, and when you take that pause between chapters in your life, and you look back on the things that had the greatest impact and the people who had the greatest impact, and you speak your truth about it from a mature lens, from a spirit-filled lens, from a lens of gratitude, your perspective on what you've seen changes. And so that was one of my next points, was about really setting the tone, how our Father set the tone for our expectations as women, expectations on relationships, how you expect to be treated, how you are expected to behave. And so the goddesses in my circle often talk about, and we reflect on that presence. And then when you look at it from a deeper, more spiritual lens, when we talk about God the Father, how, if you can't parallel the way that you see your father, your biological, physical father, and how you see God the Father, your spiritual father, and you don't see any parallels with how you respond, not just how they respond to you, but also how you respond, that's time for reflection. That's time for maturity. That's time for self-work. And so that's kind of the lens that when we talk about the goddess window that we look from and to, that's kind of some of the things that we look at, and that's how we look at it.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be in the building, too. I'm looking forward to that one, Dave. Mm-hmm. So, Brother Dave, right, me and you were just talking today about men only, right? And this is I'm saying, Dave, that this comes from a parenting point of view. Mm-hmm. But like you were saying, like we were talking about when we were talking about men just not wanting, they're quick to say, man, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. Or they're coded up and talk about it. Mm-hmm. Like they're the expert on it. Mm-hmm. Right? The barbershop, so on and so. But their ass won't take one step.
Right. And I think the unfortunate part, as I was thinking about that conversation, is that, again, you, as I said a long time ago, you can't give what you don't have. And if they don't have a foundational piece to build upon, or if the foundational piece had a crack in it, then there's going to be a lot of compromising. And that's what you've seen. Again, you can't expect the fathers of the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s to operate the same way that the fathers operate today in 2022. Right. So we have to give way for that. But at the same time, as we are advancing, this is the most advanced generation ever, financially, knowledge, information. At a push of a button, you almost can get anything you ever think in your brain.
Right.
So there's no reason for us to be still acting as if we're in the 1920s.
Right.
You see, so we have to start to work together. And one of the things we have to put to the side is pride, pseudo-pride. There's a thing about having pride in what you do, a job well done.
Right.
But when you have that pseudo-pride that's based on your own personal image, then you're going to end up being compromised. So as you were speaking, Heather, about relationships and how women would communicate what they need to prepare. I was asked a question the other day on another show, and the young lady came on and said, "Well, how can I get a godly man? What do I need to get him? Because I've been looking." And well, first the Bible says he that find a wife find a good thing, for you to be looking. But a young man came on and said the same thing, and I said to both of them that here's the reality: preparing. I say, here's the reality: you need to prepare yourself. See, this is what we have come conditioned to look at everybody else and how they prepare themselves. But we need to prepare our heart, we need to prepare our mind, we need to prepare our spirit, we need to take care of our body, we need to do all these things. So when that person comes, they say when the student is ready, the teacher will show. When that mate shows up, they know you and you know them. It's almost parallel. Let's just line right up.
Yes,
Because both parties have prepared themselves. We spend too much energy worrying about what other people are doing. We should be just working on ourselves.
Yes.
So, and as I explained to them both, also, once you do this, there's other things to come when you want to get married. See, everybody want a car, but they don't want the insurance and the maintenance on the car. See, and that's where the relationships get tight. Because, see, now that we had the fanfare, the big wedding, the big reception, and everybody say, yeah, okay, next day one. Now we got to go to work.
Now
As I told my son, it's one thing to go visit your friends, another thing to live with your friends. It's another thing to live with your wife now, live with your husband. And if you ain't worked on those issues inside out, what's inside a person come out of a person. That's why we see all this manifestation, the killings. People got still anger, hatred, unforgiveness. All that is poison that's going through your system. And as it's going through your system, where it got to go? It's coming out of your system. Poison in, poison out. So when we look at our fathers, they only could do so much because they only knew so much. But, to date, we got more information psychologically, spiritually, financially, relational. Why are we still acting like we're in the 1920s? See, I can give them a pass. I can't give the people today a pass. And as I told you, I don't follow sports anymore because I can't even fathom a man being worth $300 million and he can't help nobody. I heard one athlete said, this was significant. He said, now they sent $40 billion over to Russia. It's only 300-something million people in the United States. You could have gave now this is a fantasy, you could give everybody $1 million to give them a jump start and still send over their $39 billion. My point is that we have these resources today that they didn't have back in the day. And so there's no reason for us. We do what we do. And there's no reason we shouldn't have 100 mentors to help these boys. There's no reason that athletes got money and that's not supplying. Because if you don't take care of your men, as I told you what the lady said the other day, when the men step up, the women can rest. That's a sad statement to hear. That's a sad statement because we supposed to be the lead. I don't care if you don't believe in what the Bible say, but no matter what, when we read about the Bible, it started with a man, and then the woman was brought into play. She became your helpmate to support, to help you, to elevate you, motivate you, encourage you. So God had a reason for his plan. That's the problem. We want to do our will, we want to do our plan. But Jesus came here, and he said, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Jesus was a man. His name wasn't Jessica. His name was Jesus. So at the end of the day, it starts with a man, but the man got to be just like Christ. You got to hold yourself responsible and accountable in order that we can ensure that we move the men in line with what God wants us to do.
And that goes back to what you said. They have to be prepared.
They have to be prepared.
They have to be prepared. We got too many, and I said this before, and I continuously repeat, we got too many males sitting next to their moms and too many moms sitting next to their sons and too many sons not being able to sit next to a woman and be a husband. Mm-hmm. We have way too much of that. We have too many men who will go break their life cycle for their mom, but be very disrespectful and harmful to their children and the mother of their children. Mm-hmm. We got too much of that. Mm-hmm. Right? We got way too much of the fact that the mom raises the daughter but controls the son. Where the son has been fully indoctrinated into what she says and is very responsive to her, mm-hmm. and therefore cannot think for themselves. Mm-hmm. So the work that we have been doing and the work that for 37 years, this work being in this place, it's very difficult for men to see another man in the type of leadership because they're very judgmental. Men are more judgmental to me than women are, and that's amazing to say. But men are they're silent and judgmental. They see you do something and they think that they can do it better, not realizing your relationship with God, mm-hmm. right? And that relationship is very, very powerful. Even the naysayers, right? You're starting to see naysayers even mention God, and they can't help themselves, right? You're starting to see the non-believers try to talk about non-belief time and time and time again. But if you're talking about non-belief, then you won't believe in yourself as men because God is directly connected to men. His first process was men. We like to dig deep, go in and find, and we found Lucy. And Lucy, and we said Lucy was the experimental, the whole nine. Then when you go back, you keep saying like, wait a minute, we finding all these things. Then we hear that the first specimen, all this stuff is coming out was a woman, but every time they dig deep, they find a man's head or they find a male skull. Right when they go into the Egypt into the pyramids, one of the first things they found was a king. Right, when we want to put ISIS, and we don't put people in front of men. Right, we're mutually great. The problem is that a system was put in place to make us mutually divisive. If I can look at my wife as a partner because God gifted her in what she does, and have respect for her work, you see, that's my job. When she looks at my work and she can have gift and see the gift that God gave me and be respectful in that work, that's her job. That's why it's called a partnership. Too many times we still trying to be out front and talking to women and telling women, didn't I tell you? And negating the fact that God gave her a gift as well. And we got to understand the importance of understanding each other. But when it comes to this fatherhood piece, when God set up man, then he gave life. And then the first two was Cain and Abel, right? If we stick to the principles, many times they did research, they found there were men everywhere during this time, right? So you have those principles coming out. But the first two, they say, was Cain and Abel. But because of the iniquities, right, they discovered that these two men, brothers, went at each other. And one killed the other. What was in there? And what have we done across the board? Because God birthed us all. White, black, pink, Arab, Indian, whatever you want to call the nationalities, the men, when they divided and they got these in these spaces and places, we still set the tone across the world with fatherhood. And so when you setting the tone across the world with fatherhood, how you treat people, how you did people, how you use racism, how you use negativity, how you use pimping, procrastination, playing, how you use those mechanisms to control someone, you are now reaping those things. Then until men wake up and not only ask for the forgiveness, but as fathers and men in the place to be in their homes and with their children, sometime as a father, you just got to say, I'm sorry. I messed up. I find myself, Dave, Heather, I don't have a system. I just know these things work, right? And so because I didn't necessarily have a system and format it, now we got it format. But it was because of her and the energy that she's able to bring. But like she said, like Heather said, if you're not mature enough to raise children, you will destroy them. And we see that time and time again. And when you neglectful, before I get in that, I'm sorry, before I even go in there, Heather, tell everybody where they can reach you at.
A quick change, thank you. I can be reached at yourinspiredjourney.com. That's my website where you can find other resources, tools, workshops, and opportunities to meet 101. My phone number is 313-759-7855. So that's 313-759-7855.
Brother Dave?
All right. You can reach me. My phone number is 608-343-0875. You can reach me at DEROME7 at yahoo.com. Or you can reach me at David FMAM Patterson at Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what we got you there.
Yeah. I'm still working on that.
No, we got
Got to catch up.
You got a whole layout coming with Good Fathers Only, right? So I'm of course, my name is Calvin Mann, right? I'm the president and founder of Encourage Me. I'm young. You can reach me at Emmy World and right now at thegoodfathersonly.com. No one has more fatherhood messages in apparel, and no one, in our opinion, understands the importance of fatherhood unity, and that's where we got to go. But I wanted to end this conversation with you understanding the very point that you do not value the father. The fact that you do not love on your father, your husband, the man of your children, is the reason why you have the issues that you have. You can't get away from dogging, manipulating, lying, telling lies, and building up these false doctrines and showing and going into court, telling lies and doing it consistently to prevent a man from loving his children. When a man doesn't love his children, you try to give them to him. You put your kids in harm's way because you know he don't care. But the man that cares, we make him pay. The father in the house deserves the love that you have for him. Every kid in the household should be celebrating, because had he not been who he was, you can't be who you are. So I just really want us to understand that the reason why we are suffering culturally in many other areas across the country, 92% of everything that you see is wrong, come from fatherless homes. The absent father, the father that's not present, the father that doesn't give, the father that doesn't teach, the father that doesn't love, the father that doesn't hold hands, the father that doesn't listen. You need that. And you need to pay attention, and you need to give it up. And I'm saying to everybody within earshot that will see this, hear this in the future, get up off your ass, celebrate your daddy like you do your mama, and show him love, because he brings a lot of value. There's a life-saving nurture. And the last thing is, I got 2 books coming out, and I ain't asking you, I'm telling you, you need to get it so you can understand the value. 15 things you to know about fatherhood and things fathers should say. I looked at it today. It's so powerful. Great job, Lucreta Parks. I am so excited about this, because mothers with sons will have a book, and men that don't know will have a book from messages from hundreds of men. With that being said, I love you. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers that's coming. This whole month, that's what you're going to hear from me. Happy Father's Day. I love you. God bless you. And encourage me. I'm young. Peace.
Something is missing. It wasn't about taking, it was all about getting. Back in the days, they really knew how to live, because everything they do was strictly for the kids. Let's start the game over.